He says, we got some really good cells out of your son.
Money doesn't mean anything without your health and your family.
Coming up today, curing blood cancer thanks to family. The story behind one son's life-saving gift. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. When someone in your family is facing cancer, your first instinct is to focus on them. And that was the case for the father that you are about to meet today. John Belfonte was concerned for his daughter facing breast cancer. So much so that his heart literally hurt, causing enough pain that it sent him to go see the doctor. And soon he found out that he was facing his own life-changing diagnosis. What's your favorite flavor?
My favorite flavor is butter pecan and spumoni.
The Belfonte family bond is, well, thicker than ice cream.
Yeah, I like butter pecan. Yeah, I don't need it, but I love it.
John Belfonte's father started the Belfonte Dairy Company 50 years ago.
So this truck here, the story behind this truck is my father-in-law, this is probably about 95, 94. He called me and he says, I found this 47 Chevy truck in the weeds.
John carried on the family legacy, expanding the business through the years until he sold it back in 2003 to focus on his real passion, family. Wife Rosie, son Sal, his daughters, and several grandkids. John was ready to enjoy his next chapter when life took a sharp turn. His daughter Joanna was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Her hair started falling out from the chemo treatments, and she came over the 4th of July and all her hair was gone. I just kind of stressed out a little bit.
So much so, the next day, John started feeling heart pain and went to the doctor, where the Belfontes were about to be dealt another blow.
He says, John, your heart's fine, it's probably anxiety. He says, but your blood work's a mess.
Doctors diagnosed John with a type of blood cancer called myelodysplasia syndrome.
So they gave me a 50-50 shot of beating this.
He was referred to the University of Kansas Cancer Center, where his team of doctors told John he'd need one thing to survive.
He told me what my percentages were, and he says, the only thing, that's going to take care of this is a bone marrow transplant. We're going to have to get you a donor.
And just as the Belfontes have done for generations, John turned to his son, Sal.
To have parents that have give your whole life and done everything for you, it's not even the discussion.
For Sal, it's just what you do for family.
Shaved 2 heads in less than 12 months, my sister and my dad.
And in April of 2022, Sal successfully donated his bone marrow to his dad, John.
It was just an emotional time, it was.
Here's a guy that had just sold his business and was finally able to retire, financially set, to do whatever he wanted, and then get sick and wow, money doesn't mean anything without your health and your family. So it's pretty eye-opening and brings you back to earth pretty fast.
It certainly does. And John is with us in studio this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I am good. We're so glad to have you and your team here with us. We've got John's doctors with us, hematologist and oncologist, Dr. Anurag Singh, who is also the Deputy Director of the Blood and Marrow Transplant Program. We also have hematologist and oncologist, Dr. Sunil Abhyankar, who is also Director of the Midwest Stem Cell Therapy Center. And next to me, we are so glad to be joined by BMT nurse practitioner, Kayla Fadenstiel. Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
I call it like the band's all back together again.
Yeah.
It's
Very familiar face.
I know, and I know you love all of these folks.
Absolutely.
John, I first have to ask you just how are you feeling today?
Feeling good. I think it's been my best year. We're coming up on 5 years, and I think I feel this has been the best I've felt since the transplant.
And I have to ask you how your daughter Joanna's
She's
doing.
doing fantastic. I love her.
Good. And Sal, our donor,
Excellent.
our
Doing
favorite
great.
donor.
That's right.
He's doing good?
Number one son's doing good.
Number one son.
Yeah.
Good positioning in the family,
Yeah,
right?
right,
You donate to dad.
Right.
So John, when I came to your home and met your lovely family, you said you called these guys your boys.
Yep.
These two men sitting here, they're your
That's right.
boys.
Yep.
They mean so much more to you than just being your doctors and helping to save your life. But tell me about your bond with them.
Well, when I first met them, they told me, you're going to be spending a lot of time over here with us. And, I kind of, from day one, my very first meeting when I got diagnosed was with Dr. Cribbs and then Dr. Abhyankar and Dr. Singh. And, they were telling me different things going on. There was a lot of stuff to remember. But I told them from day one, I was all in. Let's do this.
You were all in.
I was all in. They told me what I needed to do, and they told me the risk involved, but I was all in from day one. In fact, I couldn't wait to get started. We used to ask them on certain visits, what's taking so long to get this done? But it's a long process, and understandably so. I mean, it's just a long process.
Well, and I can probably just speak for the team, but I would imagine having a patient who says they are all in at least makes part of your job pretty easy. Dr. Abhyankar, what was it like when you first met Mr. Belfanti?
I know the first meeting when you tell the patients that this is a pretty deadly disease that we are faced with, and that we need to go to a transplant. It's always a shocking kind of news to hear, because doing a transplant is a lot to go through, and so we're going to start initially with some treatment to get the cancer cells a little bit less proliferating, and then look at doing the transplant. So when you were kind of impatient to get to the transplant, that was one of the reasons.
Right. Remember, yes.
John, in hindsight, were you feeling any symptoms that you can chalk up to MDS? And we're going to talk about what that is here in just a moment.
Yeah, I really didn't. I woke up a couple mornings with looked like really faint blood on my pillow, and I thought maybe my gums were from grinding my teeth. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I think I remember asking you about that too, back when, and it was real faint. It wasn't like a lot of blood. It was just really faint, and but I had no other symptoms. I don't. I guess maybe looking back, maybe a little fatigued, but looking back, I really, when I went in and found out my blood work was a mess, it was like, I had no clue.
Right. And you said fatigue. It's like, who isn't?
Right.
Who isn't tired, right?
Right.
Dr. Singh, just kind of explain what MDS is and what's the big long name. I'll let you pronounce it.
Sure. So MDS stands for myelodysplastic syndrome. So it is a cancer of blood and bone marrow stem cells. So, we have blood cells which all come from stem cells, which are the precursor or early cells in the bone marrow, so the space inside the bones. And in myelodysplastic syndrome, some of these early cells, they become dysplastic or bad looking. And so what happens is they are not able to grow as normal cells do. So there is a lot of activity, but they are not able to mature and come out of the bone marrow. So patients, they develop low blood counts, low hemoglobin, low white count, low platelets, which can cause bleeding. So it is a cancer, and sometimes it can even progress and develop into something even more aggressive called leukemia.
Is it referred to like as a pre-leukemia?
Yeah, so some people do call it pre-leukemia because I would say on an average, 1/3 of patients with the myelodysplastic syndrome will evolve into an acute leukemia.
And Dr. A, are there different types and subtypes of MDS, and what type did John have?
Yes, so we kind of grade these subtypes based on the number of leukemic cells there are in the bone marrow. And I was going through your chart before I came here, and you had like 12% of those bad cells, which we call leukemic cells, in your bone marrow. So that's what made your MDS high risk to progress to acute leukemia. And so we want to make sure that we prevent that and do the transplant before actually it becomes into a leukemia.
So what are the treatment options, and how do you decide a bone marrow transplant is needed, or is that just the gold standard of treatment going in?
So sure. So myelodysplastic syndrome is not just one disease. There are many different subtypes, and there are different risks with each. And so we look at many different things, including blood counts, and more recently we look at the genetic makeup, the genetic signature of the cancer. And so there are some myelodysplastic syndrome patients who may not even need any treatment, but then there are others, because of their high risk features, they need aggressive treatment and stem cell transplantation. Overall, the only curative treatment for myelodysplastic syndrome is a bone marrow transplantation. There are some chemotherapy drugs which are approved now to get some control of the disease, and so they are option in patients who need some early treatment, as well as those patients who are not a candidate for transplantation. So these drugs like Vidasa or decitabine, they could be used to get some control of the disease.
So we know chemo drugs can be hard on the heart. John, you are already a heart patient. What were doctors telling you about treatment options and how that might affect?
Well, you know, he still preaches to me about my heart on my visits, you know, and rightly so. I go to the heart doctor religiously. Because I have 3 stents, and my age, I'm 68 now. So I really didn't. I didn't have any chest pains or anything taking the treatments. They didn't affect me at all. The only thing the chemo bothered me was that I could tell was a lot of nausea, headaches. And I didn't have that many treatments. I can't remember if I had 5 rounds or what I had on the regular chemotherapy, not counting the Vidasa. But I don't remember it affecting my heart in any way. It was always in the back of my mind, always.
I bet.
You know, and but no, it was you know, chemo makes you feel a little bit ill. You know.
Yeah. So I've heard.
There's no question.
So I've heard. Dr. Singh, what's the purpose of that Vidasa, that chemo injection?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, Vidasa, it helps reduces the disease burden, so get some disease control while we are trying to identify a donor and someone where we are not able to give very intensive chemotherapy for transplantation. Going into transplant with a reduced disease burden may help with the success of transplantation.
Well, let's talk about the bone marrow transplant process. Kayla, I want to bring you in here. A lot of planning that goes on when it comes to this. When does the search begin for a donor?
As soon as the patient gets diagnosed, we reach out to one of our pre-transplant nurses, and they immediately start looking for a donor with that. And we are looking for like HLA typing to find the best donor that best suits for our patient.
When you walked in and saw John this morning, you both had a moment.
Yes.
And he said, "Gosh, I feel like I called you all the time."
Yes.
And that doesn't. So we get that a lot when our patients meet our nurses, our doctors, but our nurses, because that's who you're in contact with. What is your role when it comes to the relationship you have with our patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a nurse practitioner with BMT, like we in the team, the physicians are all following the same patients. And so we build really a lifelong rapport with our patients. And it's like they really become like family to us. And so, you know, just constantly seeing how they're doing and following up with anything that needs addressed so that we're not missing anything. Sometimes our patients get graft versus host disease, so always assessing for those sort of things and jumping on it right away. But as we see the patients, they've really become like family to us.
I'm sure you're like a huge source of like answers, but comfort, right,
Yes.
John?
Big time.
Big time.
Big time comfort. Yeah, you know, you're not feeling good. You know, I called her many a time. Not all hours of the night, but you know, later, and I would call, you know, anybody in the medical field because I just, you know, or, you know, yeah, it's just to hear, you know, well, you know, that's kind of normal, especially right out of the hospital, you know, when I was first home, and yeah, it's a real, yeah, they make the whole process very comfortable.
I bet.
Very
I bet.
comfortable. Yep.
I want to talk a little bit more about the donor process and finding a donor, which we'll get to Sal here in just a little bit. But you may be able to save a life by signing up for the National Marrow Donor Program, formerly called Be the Match. You can check out nmdp.org. The ideal donors are young and fit, under the age of 40, and people of color in particular are in need. But in recent years, doctors have gotten better and better at using family members as donors, even when they're not 100% matches, and that's okay, right? So how do you decide, Dr. Singh, just tell us, you know, how do you decide which family member? John has, he has several children, so where do you start?
Yes. So when we are looking for donors, we start with family members, and you know, now the best chance of finding a full match is with a brother or sister. They have, but even they have just 25% chance of being a full match. So more than likely they are not going to be matches. Then we also look at unrelated donors, these volunteers which we find on NMDP, so we are able to identify unrelated donors. But sometimes we do not have unrelated match donors, and so we look at family donors. So children, they could be grandchildren, they could be siblings, they could be parents, and so children or parents, they will be half match, right? Because we get one part of our DNA from our mom and from dad, so they'll be half match. Now, traditionally, these half match transplants, there were lots of complications associated with that because they're only half match. But in recent years, the way we do transplant has evolved, and which has made these transplants very safe. So now when we have several family members who are half matches and could be potential donors, we look at several other variables. Generally, we prefer younger donors. We prefer male donors over females, especially if they've had children. So the good news is, again, it has opened a lot more options, and essentially anyone who needs a transplant has a donor.
That was something I learned during our sit-down interview, John, because your daughter had a baby, and you just mentioned in conversation that she happened to not be the best match because
Both of my girls had kids.
Right. So
right.
you said because they had kids, they did not make for the best match. I did not know that. Explain. Who wants to explain why?
Oh, so during pregnancy, the mother's immune system gets exposed to the baby's cells, and then develops a reaction, you know, primed to react. So that memory stays in the mother's blood cells for the rest of her life. And so when what has been found out by research done is that when patients get stem cells from women who had pregnancies, they tend to have higher risk of graft versus host disease. And graft versus host disease is a major complication after transplant, where the donor cells are trying to reject the patient's body. And so to try to prevent that, we then try to, if you have a choice of donors, and then we would want to take a male or a female, and also if it is a female as a choice, we'd like to take one who hasn't had any children. Yeah.
So that leaves, then there was one.
There's one left.
There's one left.
They tested my brothers, which are identical twins.
Right.
They're 4 years younger than me, and they're identical. So you test one, you test them both. You know, same. They didn't match. My sister Jo Marie, she couldn't because she had some other medical history issues that they didn't want to use her as a donor. And then then came to Sal, and I'll let him take it from there. Yeah.
And yeah, so Saul was our donor. He is a half match, and we were like, yeah, we'll go with that.
That was a decision, quick decision.
Quick
too.
decision
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah.
One that was easy to make. I
And
know
again, I was all in. Whatever you guys say, I'll do.
he was in, and
That's
Sal
right.
was in,
That's
everyone
right.
was in.
Right.
So be sure to ask your questions if you have any. Use the chat on YouTube or Facebook. You can email the Medical News Network. That information is there on your screen. Dr. Abhyankar, what are the biggest concerns during post-transplant, during that period, after the transplant happens?
So after the transplant happens, the person is in the hospital for about 2-3 weeks, recovering from the effects of the chemo, like you were, John. And once the blood counts take over, we know that these are donor cells that are growing, then it's safe to discharge to the outpatient. And then subsequently, for the first 100 days, we have to follow very closely, like Kayla mentioned earlier, to watch for graft versus host disease. And so every time the patient comes to a clinic, we're watching their blood count to make sure the donor cells are doing what they're supposed to do and growing, and then watch for graft versus host disease, watch for infections. So the first 100 days after transplant are very critical.
Kayla, what's your role post-transplant in John's care? You know, you're doing a lot of lead-up work, and then here comes the transplant.
Yeah, kind of like what Dr. Abhyankar said. A lot of it, so during when I'm seeing John is, you know, we ask a lot of the same questions. Are you having any fevers? And a lot of questions too, assessing for any graft versus host disease. Because from one visit to the next, patients can change drastically or symptoms can arise. And so it is very critical that we're assessing for infection, anything new that's coming up or anything that the patient may not think is abnormal, but to us it is like, well, this actually could be something more concerning we need to look into. And a lot of education as well, because at the beginning of this, the patients are they have so much information up front, like John had mentioned, of everything. It's very overwhelming for the patient. So I also try to take time to more so go over a little bit of what we're looking for and why, and explaining it a little bit more, because it's just so much at once. And making sure that they're also understanding everything that we're doing as far as treatment too, so that we're all on the same page and that they're comfortable with what's going on.
John, how long were you in the hospital?
19 days.
19 days.
I did. I think I was a quick one to get out. From what I hear, I was able to get out, you know, maybe 11 days sooner than normal. And you know, what I remember distinctly, both of these gentlemen came in my room the day I got my cells, and they said, you know, you're probably not going to like us in the next 3 days. You're going to be, probably wish you'd never done this. And they went on to explain, you know, it's just your body's going to go into a little bit of a, you know, shock, and you're going to feel pretty miserable. So I thought, well, maybe I won't have that. But anyway, long story short, I walked laps that day that I got my cells around the hospital, because they preached, you need to get up and get moving. Well, I never stopped. I walked every day.
You were determined.
And except for those 3 days after transplant they were talking about.
They weren't kidding.
They were not kidding. I looked over at my wife. I says, why did I ever do this for? You know, I mean, I was hurting.
Well, I know what one
Yeah.
reason you did it for, because
Yeah.
you met a new little family member.
That's right, my granddaughter.
So tell
Yeah.
us about this little lady.
She's pretty precious. She's 18 months old now. Yeah, Lucy.
Lucy.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
had to give you a big old
Yeah.
reason to get up and go.
It was a it was a real good gift. Really good gift. Yep.
When did you start feeling closer to that 100%? I mean, you know.
Yeah. It's been probably this past year. You know, I mean, I felt really good all along, I think. I mean, I had some issues, you know. I had pneumonia a couple times. I think I had to be admitted to the hospital here at KU. And that was an amazing situation in its
You had
own.
to go to hospital in Arizona.
Yeah,
while playing
exactly.
golf.
Yes,
Oh, you
yeah.
started playing golf.
Yeah, yeah, one of my trips to get checked over, and I had pneumonia.
Yeah.
And I was getting pneumonia. I had a couple times, I think, didn't I? Was it pneumonia every time I was in, or?
Sometimes with pneumonia, sometimes just a respiratory infection.
Yeah.
So he's keeping you up at night with all of these
Yeah.
as he rolls
And
his
not only
eyes
did
at
I
you.
get to see him at the office, I go in the hospital, and there he is again. He looked at me, he goes, "What are you doing here?
What are you doing here,
What
John?
are you doing here?" You know, so yeah,
Now he
it
just
was.
sends me texts.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was. So I had some issues, but you know what? I'm okay with what I had. You know, I'm all good. It's, you know, got through it, and you know.
Well, Don, you've
Yeah.
lived a pretty big life, you know, with this
Yeah.
business that
Right.
we're all so familiar with.
Yep.
And your family has been such a big support, the community, I would imagine, to just how important has that been for you?
Oh, the families. It's our family. I think everybody in our family, the glass is always half full. It's never half empty. That's just kind of the way the family rolls. You know, we're all very positive people, and you know, my wife, my kids, even my older grandkids, friends. It just, yeah, it's a lot of support, and it does make a difference, big time. And then these guys are, you know, I could go on for weeks, you know.
They're kind of hard to let go of, huh?
Yeah, they're in it for the win, and the love of what they do is, you can just see it, that they love what they're doing to help people. Kayla, Dr. Singh, Dr. Abiyankar, all of them. They're just, you feel it, and it's just amazing what they do at this hospital and this department. It's really, and I tell everybody the same thing, it's incredible.
Dr. Singh, is John's result and outcome pretty typical?
So patients with myelodysplastic syndrome who undergo transplant, they have a 50% chance of being cured, and you know, without problem. So it's a 50-50 chance, and obviously when we go in, we go all in, and we give our best, and to make sure that our patients belong to the 50% who do well.
Yes. Yeah.
The glass half full.
The glass half
Glass
full.
half full.
right.
I like that.
And they do run that way, and you, as a patient, you can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to a couple questions from our viewers this morning, shall we? Okay. Does MDS warrant genetic testing to see if it's hereditary?
Yes. So most of the MDS is not hereditary. However, up to 10% patients can have something in the genes which increase risk of MDS. So we look at their features, and especially, you know, like if someone is young and gets diagnosed with MDS, or while we're working them up and we find certain genes which we feel are related to something inherited, we do test for inherited reasons. In fact, we have a program in our division focusing on these genetic causes which increase risk of blood cancers like myelodysplastic syndrome.
And how do you test family members to see if they're a match here at the hospital? Is it a cheek swab like it is when you send it in?
Dr. Abiyankar?
Yeah, so to test for genetic predisposition.
Well,
No, just
to see
match.
if you're a match.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a cheek swab.
Yeah.
And the family members could be living elsewhere. We just mail the swab to them and thoroughly swab the cheek and send the swab back, and they can analyze it from the saliva.
Well, Pretty easy. All right, so I want to get to our just our takeaways today, but before we do, John, give us just a quick tutorial on Belfonte dairy and ice cream, because when I tell people that I met you, you're kind of famous. I said somebody I met you. I said somebody I met you. I told my dad I met you. He goes, "Oh, that butter pecan." And people I've met have said, "That's a good man right there." So you have to know that you're like a myth, the man, the myth, the legacy.
No, it's no big deal. It
is a big deal.
I know, but
you are a big deal.
It's just another day at work, you know. I mean, you get used to it.
You make people very happy.
Well, thank you. I'm glad of that, and appreciate everybody's support. So. My dad started the company. He was in the dairy business all his life. And he started the business actually as a distributor in 1967, and just grew and grew and grew. We were young kids. And I'll never forget the story. To start the business, he took my mom's last $1,800 she had saved out of her bank account to get started to buy 2 pieces of equipment, 2 trucks. Well, anyway, it was a hell of a story. He worked very hard worker, taught us hard work ethics, and everybody said, "You go to college?" I says, "My dad's university is where I went."
Bet.
All of us boys did, and my brothers. It was a family affair. My mom worked in the office getting started. My aunt, my sister, my brothers, we were all part of it, and we just built it into this thing that got really rather large. A lot of hard work, but you know, he put the concrete down for us, and we built it. We built the building on top of it, but he put really good concrete under our feet.
Yeah, he did. And it's still, I know you sold the business, but it's
We
still
sold in
the
03.
legacy and the taste is still the same today, and it's so
Yeah.
amazing. But my favorite story that you told me was, I said, "Oh my gosh, you must have come home with so much ice cream." And you said, "No, the easiest way to get it, you would just stop at the grocery store and
I
buy
forget.
it." You said it was so easy just to go buy it, because if not,
Right.
you had to go to like the back and like get it out of these big vats and stuff. And you're like, just go pay the $3, $4, $5 to get the carton.
Exactly.
I was like, "You have to pay for your own ice cream?" I was like, "That's excellent." I love
tell
that
the story too. Even my wife says, "Don't forget to bring home some milk tonight." And I stop at the store. It's easier to stop at the store and get it. Yeah, here you got a milkman borrowing milk from the neighbor.
I love it.
It's not right. Yeah.
That is classic. I
Right.
love that
Right.
story. So, well,
Right.
thank you. Let's go around. Dr. A, thank you for being here today. I told you, I said, you got to be here. You're one of his boys. So
No.
you said, "I'll be there." So what's the big takeaway from our story?
No, it is great to be here with John, especially when he said boys, made me feel younger.
Yep.
No, the takeaway is that, you know, we got to keep advancing this field. Research is a huge component of what we do, because 50% success is not enough, right? We need higher. So we got to keep innovating. We got to keep finding new ways how we can tackle these deadly diseases.
Dr. Singh, what is the big takeaway this morning?
So I want to say that if you or your family member gets diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome, remember it is a potentially curable cancer, and so you need to make sure that you find a good team, and the transplant journey, it's not a 100-meter sprint. It's a long run. So you have to be in for the long haul. So although you take one day at a time, but you have to keep your eye on the big goal.
Yeah, you got to be all in, and you got to have the glass half full.
Yes.
I love that. Those are some big good takeaways. Kayla, what do you want people to know today?
Yeah, just to add on to what they've said is really attitude is everything when it comes to transplant and going through this as well, and having a great support system. So like John from day one, when I've met him, was like, "What are you doing here? You look so good." And his mentality through everything has always been positive. Every visit through all these years, every time I see him, has just been a positive attitude. So it's a, "I got this" kind of thing. And us here as a team, like, it is a journey, and we are with our patients along this entire marathon and until the very end. So.
Well,
You can't disappoint these 3 people. They do too much hard work.
They're working hard for you, and you got to work hard for them.
Yeah.
Right,
So
that's right.
I
You
really
can't
like
disappoint them.
that. I love
No.
that. John, I'm going to let you have the final word on this Friday. What's the big takeaway from your story?
Big takeaway is naturally I'm blessed. Being able to have
this team of doctors in this hospital in this town. That's a big deal. And you know, it's just, you don't really realize, you know, I mean, the hours and the time. You know, you see them in the clinic, you see them in the hospital. They're coming in the hospital to see you. You're in the clinic to see them. The hours these guys put in, you could just see they love what they're doing. And again, you could tell they're in it for the win. Yeah.
Well said. For the win.
For the win.
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for sharing your story, and all the best to your
Thank you.
family,
Thank
Joanna,
you.
your daughter, and Sal, and your
Yeah.
wife, and everybody. So
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Appreciate it.
Docs, Kayla, thanks for sharing all your insight. Always great to have you. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our viewers, as always, for being with us today. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Coming up Monday on the Morning Medical Update, a liver transplant is allowing Amy Wallace to live a full life. Now a mom, educator, and volunteer. I'm Jessica Lovell on the next Morning Medical Update. The decision she made that's allowing her to thrive. Monday at 8.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now everywhere podcasts are available.